All right, this is Nick from Easy Math with Nick. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of deviation from my usual content. Um, and then I'm deciding to do a little tier list of advanced placement classes I've taken, as well as ones my school offers and have heard about. And I'm even doing some predictions of classes I'm taking next year, see where I think their difficulty will lie on the scale I have here. So this is a tier list type video. Not very unique. There's a lot of these online, but I felt I should throw my hat in the ring, do one of these myself because I've always had the urge to. So this category here, the dark gray category, is classes, AP classes I've taken. I've taken a total of, let me count here, 7 so far. Wow. Um, and I am taking 3 next year, so I will have taken 10. That's the white category at the bottom. Category. Did I say that right? Wow. And finally, the category in the light gray is classes that my school offers, but I've not taken for some reason or another. So, I'll start out with what better class to start out with? An AP English language. This class wasn't it. This class varies a lot by school. There's a lot of different ways you could teach this class because it's one of the most open-ended AP courses, in my opinion, where even if you look on College Board, there's no strict units to my knowledge. So there's not like a certain path you have to take. So I think it was bearable. I wouldn't, um, at first I felt it would be hard going in hard. I think it's bearable. I think putting in hard would be an overstatement considering the exam itself. The class, for the first semester at least was hard at first, just like another class I'll cover right after, but I think it goes in bearable. Next I'll do AP World. This I would, at first I would definitely say it's hard, bordering on very rough because this was my first advanced placement history class, and the transition for some more than others could be difficult. And it was for me at first. I mean, AP World is not by any means an easy class, as some might lead you to believe. Um, there's a lot of content. It covers a lot of material over a large span of years. So I think putting it in hard is fair, in my opinion. Um, next, I'll uh, next I'll actually go into the different category classes I've heard about. AP Physics One. So I did not take AP Physics One. I only took AP Physics C Mechanics, which I'll get into more later. But from what I heard, AP Physics One was pretty difficult. Um, was by no means. I wouldn't put it in very rough because I don't think at first, at least for me, with Physics C, and I know a lot of people with Physics 1, physics could be very difficult at first because there's a lot of, at first it could be overwhelming with all the different concepts thrown at you, which kind of goes for any AP science class in a way, but physics has that effect exasperated much more. At first you could feel lost, like what's going on. But second semester, for what I heard from Physics One was just like my experience with Physics C, where you have a much stronger footing and you begin to understand new concepts much more easily. So I think Physics One goes in the hard category, but I don't think it goes in very rough. I feel like I would be doing it a disservice to put it in not bad because I know people that had difficulty with Physics One, so I wouldn't put it. Even though I didn't take it, I'll put it in hard to respect those that have made the grind. Next, I'll do AP Calc AB. For me, this class was not bad. I didn't think Calc AB was that difficult, mainly because, well, I feel like there's nothing that's too out there in this class. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like the most difficult part of this course, from what I've heard from my colleagues and in my personal opinion, was the different means to find volume when rotating shapes around like the X or Y axis, like the washer disk method, cylindrical shells, even, which I don't even think are in the AB curriculum, so I might be wrong there. But regardless, I feel like that was the hardest unit. The last unit, Unit 7, I'd like to think. Unit 7 or 8. Um, I think it's 7. But regardless, I feel like besides that, calculus usually has very difficult connotation associated with it, which I feel like BC definitely lives up to that. So I'll put BC in difficult because I feel like, do I really want to? I don't know. I think I'll put AB in bearable and BC in hard. I feel like that's fair. I might come back to that. Um, Let me see where to tackle next. Okay, let me do AP statistics next. I only know one person that took this class personally, but considering what I know of statistics and I looked at the curriculum for this class and I know what it's about, basically, I'd say it's bearable. I don't think it's. I'll put it slightly. I'll put it like right next to Calc AB because I feel like um, from the one person I've talked to, they're similar in difficulty. So I don't think one is significantly more difficult than the other. I won't go too in depth on classes I haven't taken, but I'll leave it at that. Next, AP Physics and Mechanics. I really enjoyed this class. It was a little bit of a doozy at first because this was my first physics class I've taken. And usually this is intended as a second year physics course, but um, my school gave the option to take it as your first because we dragged this class out to 2 semesters. I know some schools have this 1 semester and E&M the second semester, which is very common, but um, as this was my and some other of my friends' first physics course, it it sort of makes sense to drag this out to 2 semesters, so there's more of like a transition in that sense. So, which was nice because if this course was 1 semester, I don't think it would be a great idea for me or anybody else to take it as their first physics course because it is quite difficult, no matter what way you slice it. So I wouldn't put it in very rough because I know a class that I'm predicting will be in that tier, um, but I'm gonna put it at the top of hard. Let me order this. I think BC over world, and I think there you go. I think that's more accurate. I'll do the ordering at the end just in case, but so for like physics C, like looking back, kinematics was difficult at first, but like after you've like done every unit in the class and you're done with the class, you wish every question was the same difficulty as kinematics. It gets harder as the class progresses, but your perception of difficulty changes as well. So even though kinematics was pretty easy, all things considered, at least in compared to other topics, for example, like that kinematics is the first unit. That's why I'm referencing it. Same thing for physics 1. I mean, just because, well, I also took calculus for the first time that year as well. So kinematics with calculus was a new concept. And when that's a brand new thing in your mind, it's sort of daunting, getting right into the calculus part of the course. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. There's multiple calculus parts of the course. I don't know what I'm talking about. Forget it. Let's continue. All right. Next, I'll do AP US History. This class was very enjoyable. I feel like it was more work than AP World, but because it covers a shorter overall time span than AP World, but goes much more in depth. But I feel like the chronology with AP US History is much easier to fully like get a mental image of, especially with units like Unit 3 and the American Revolution. Like that chronology makes sense, and it's hard to forget that once you really got that pegged down. So, I feel like a lot of what's covered in AP US History was also covered in AP World, so that helped taking World first, especially with topics like World War One, World War Two. A lot of that was repeated in AP US History. So I would say it's bearable. I say it's bottom of bearable. I'm not going to put in not bad because it was a lot of work. You have to put in the work, but yeah. All right. Okay, first prediction besides BC, AP English Literature. I'm going to put this class right below BC because I feel like at my school, at least, which is quite odd, some students say literature is easier than language, but I know for many schools that's not the case. And when looking at the AP exam specifically, it's most certainly intended to be more difficult. So I had to put it a tier above. But that's just my prediction. It's going to be in hard. I haven't spoken to anybody that's taken the class, but oh no, I've spoken to one student, but he said it was easier than language. So I don't know whether to trust him or not. All right. Next, I'll do human geography. This class it's the first one that's going in, not bad. Everybody I've talked to said this class has some very common sense aspects to it. It is very easily graspable. The AP exam, the format is very palatable. It's nothing. It's not like well, where at least the year I took AP biology, the first page of the free response questions had like 2 minutes of 2 pages, entire pages of pre-reading for the first question, which was very daunting and sort of I can see it ruined my like mental state for the rest of the free response questions because I'm like, look at all this I have to read. So AP biology, I'll talk about it, but I'll put it in hard and I'll explain that later. But AP human geography, I looked at AP free response questions and they didn't seem to be too much pre-reading there. And there's some questions you could just ascertain just through logic. But I'm not to discredit the class as I wouldn't put it in easy. I don't think I put any AP class in easy. Now I think about it, I should probably get rid of that tier. But AP Human Geography belongs there. Next, Spanish language, AP Spanish language. Um, I will not talk about anything with this class in regards to content because I have no idea how this class is organized. But I've heard this class. I've heard some people that say it was very rough. Um, but from what I've seen, all of the students that thought it was very rough and thought they failed did not fail and got threes or even fours on the exam. So I think it might be overhyped. So I'm not going to put it very rough, but I will put it towards the towards the upper part of hard because it is it's not an easy course. The speaking part of the exam, I can just imagine could be very stressful if you're a more introverted type, especially. Um, but aside from that, I don't really know the format of the exam. Besides that, I know there's multiple choice and I know there's an essay section, but besides that, I don't know how that's organized, so I won't go in depth there. Leaving chemistry for last, and I'll talk about biology. I forget that. E&M, I'm going to put in very rough. I'm just expecting it to be there. Going into the class with pretty much blind. Um, so I have nothing to speak on it, but from what I heard, it deserves its place in very hard. Usually it's paired with mechanics and very hard, but I think mechanics deserves to be at the very top of hard because, yes, it is very rough at first, but it gets as you develop practicing skills and getting used to how to study for physics in general, it becomes much more palatable. And final, AP Biology. I feel like AP Biology deserves to be in hard. I don't know why some people think AP Biology deserves to be an easy or not bad. I think it's definitely it's very resource how do I put this? Resource intensive or no time intensive. It demands a lot of your time and resources to fully understand concepts. I felt like I just remember Unit 8 being very nice. I think it was Unit 8 was ecology. That was a good unit. But besides that, I think usually the last unit of a class is like the hardest, but I felt ecology was the easiest for whatever reason. But that was just like something that popped in my mind all of a sudden. Where was I? Yeah, so I think it deserves to be in hard. The exam was I remember the multiple choice questions being very much easier than I expected, but the opposite were for the free response. I felt the free response were quite difficult, which is different than the AP Physics C exam. Mechanics was the free response questions were great, in my opinion. At least Form J, which I had and which is posted online. The only one that's posted online for whatever reason, the last time I checked. But physics and mechanics, the free response questions were pretty good up until I think question 4 was sort of rough. I can see that being rough. I think I earned maybe like half credit at worst on that, but the rest of the questions were not that bad. But for physics C, I feel like the multiple choice questions could be quite rough because I think they extended the time limit, which is a blessing in disguise because now the questions have more room to ask more of you. So some of the questions took, even though you have 2 minutes per question, some of the questions were quite intensive. So, and finally, AP Chemistry. I feel like AP Chemistry was similar to AP Biology, and that the multiple choice questions on the actual exam weren't that bad, at least when I took it last year. I know it changed this year with widespread digital exams. I think I took a physical last year, so. But the free response questions were a mixed bag. I remember question one, I think it was a titration based question, was kind of difficult. Um, had a lot of advanced concepts there. AP chemistry, it just depends on the type of person, whether you're good at grasping more advanced concepts. Um, Unlike physics, it's different. It's a different beast altogether because chemistry has like what, seven free response questions, whereas physics just has three. Or well, this year they upped it to four for mechanics at least. I think they did for physics one as well, but I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't put chemistry in very hard. It is a difficult course. I did manage to do well in the exam, but not without a lot of work, and I don't. I feel like it deserves its spot there. Um, any other courses I could just pick out? There's no other courses I want to cover. I mean, yeah, I think that's it. I was thinking of ranking environmental science because I know friends from other schools that have taken that course, but um, I don't personally know much about it. I'll put it in not bad, just because. Why not? Need to pad out the video. All right, I think we're good here. So just some final thoughts. Um, I feel like the only like wild, only hot take, I should say, wild take, is putting U.S. history as low as it is and putting world as high as it is. Usually, world is thought of as easier, but I never really agreed with that because I think world is just, it covers so much more time, so many more time periods that there could be so much going on, uh, that it's harder. It's difficult to be more specific, in my opinion, when writing essays. And I feel like making connections over time periods is just more difficult than U.S. history because U.S. history, you're confined to, of course, the United States. And so it's easier to see like the trends, um, especially like with this year with like the economic DBQ. You can make connections over time periods because like mental connections much easier because you're just dealing with the United States. But if you had a similar like DBQ for world, um, I just you it calls it requires you to have just much more knowledge about different regions over a greater span of time, which I feel like world that just makes world more difficult by default. But if you think otherwise, which I know many people do, that's fine. Um, I feel like physics one above AP biology does make sense because it's physics, right? I think putting physics under biology doesn't just would elicit too many angry comments. So I think putting BC that far above AB, just because I expect it to be quite difficult, maybe it'll drop when I actually finish the class and realize, oh, it wasn't that much worse than AB. But I'll put it up there for now. Keep my expectations low, so I'm decently surprised. Okay, enough yapping, as I like to say, enough yapping. I think that's all I want to cover today. Um, Thank you for watching. This was a tier list of the AP classes I know about and know enough about to rank. If you asked me to rank where AP Latin is, I could not tell you. It could be wherever. So that's why I'm not ranking every AP class because I have not taken, nor do I even know about most of them. So you can see there's most of the AP classes available are still left down there. So, all right. Thank you.